Hey Sainers, welcome back to the Saints TV YouTube channel, and in this video, let's talk about Rowan Marshall. Let's talk about a specific player. he's one of my favourite players, if not my favourite player, and when he first kind of came onto the scene, you know, I think it might have been around 2018, and he played against Carlton. I remember that game. We flogged him. He played really well. I always had a soft spot for him and always hoped that he would, you know, become the player that I really thought he could based on the raw attributes that he showed in, you know, his first 10 to 15 games that he played. And, you know, back, you know, in 2019, I think that might have been slightly his breakout year. I remember that game against Grundy at the G, and he impressed me that day. I remember he took a good mark against him and then kicked a goal over his head outside 50 at the G. We lost that game. I think that was Robbie Young's first game as well. Fun fact. But, you know, the last couple of years he's developed, and we didn't know off the back of Paddy Ryder retiring whether he would or could become that number one ruck that we so desperately need. Can he carry the weight, the burden, the pressure of leading the line every single week for St Kilda? Particularly because, you know, the ruck was such a big asset for us, you know, from 2020 to 2022 with Paddy Ryder and him going in tandem, throwing Jack Hayes a little bit as well. We had, you know, a strong set of rucks there that really dominated the AFL for a year or two there, particularly 2020. It was a massive, you know, it was such a strength to have in those years. But here we are. We're with Rowe. He's on his own. We didn't kind of top up with any ruckman this year. We've got some raw stocks in Max Heath and Isaac Keeler that are going through the VFL at the moment, and both, you know, quite raw but very, very talented. But at the moment, Rowe is the number one man. So this year, just gone, 2023, he was phenomenal. Let's face it, he was absolutely phenomenal. So much so that I think a lot of people were shocked when he wasn't selected in the All-Australian team. And we always knew that if anyone was going to get in ahead of him, it was going to be, you know, a player from the Bulldogs, Tim English, who is a very, very, very good ruckman in his own right. Any team would happily have a Tim English or a Rowan Marshall. But I wanted to do a video talking about 2024 for Rowan. Is this going to be the breakthrough season for him to get into that All-Australian team? And I know that's just kind of a personal accolade, and it doesn't really matter. A lot of players will just look at that at the end of their career and go, well, that was nice, but premierships are more important and the team is more important. But I think it's worth putting a bit of a, you know, spotlight on Rowe, because to me, he's an absolute superstar of the competition. We talk about a lot of underrated players. I genuinely still think that Rowan Marshall is heavily underrated when talking about rucks. His name isn't always the first couple that are mentioned. It's always Tim English, Grundy, Darcy. There's all these other guys ahead of him. Sam Draper as well. But I think Rowan Marshall is top echelon ruckman of the competition. And I think that he deserves a bit more credit than he gets. And I think hopefully this video can shed a bit more light as to why I think he's the superstar ruck of the competition. So I've decided to go through, I'm just curious. I haven't done this yet. I don't know if it's going to work in my favor or not. If it proves me wrong, whatever. But let's just have a look at Rowan Marshall's career and season just gone, say versus a Tim English, and let's just see what we find. Alrighty. We've got Rowe and Tim English. So what do we got here? Okay, so in terms of age profile, pretty similar. Height, English has got it. Weight, games, very, very close. Debuted in the same year, 2017, not 2018. One was a rookie elevation, the other number 19 draft pick in 2016. Okay, so this is averages over career. So Rowe left, English right for those playing at home. Not bad overall from both players when you look at it. Above average, elite in a lot of categories. Clearance is 3.6 for Rowe, 2.6 for English. Kicks, 10.5 per game. Excellent. And this is over their career. So this is interesting when you look at, you know, I guess the development of the All-Australian ruck of 2023 and then the challenger, I suppose most people would call Marshall. 2017, obviously debut. Rowe hit the ground running in 2018. 2019 was massive for him. 2020 as well. Then you go 2021 was kind of the only year where English was significantly better than Rowe. And that was, not a great year for the club anyway, so that doesn't surprise me. And the Doggies had a good year, I believe, in 2021. I think that was grand final year, wasn't it? Yeah. When they lost to Melbourne. And then 2023 both went absolutely berserk. So when you look at the growth from 2017 for both to now, it's staggering. They are developing at a very, very fast rate. And you look at Tim English, he's been the number one ruck pretty much, I think, from day dot. I don't think the Dogs have really put too much in there for him to challenge him, whereas Rowe had to deal with, I think, 2018, 2019, who was our ruck? I can't even remember, to be honest. But then you go Paddy Ryder for a couple of years. And that's probably why he stagnated in 2021. It wasn't just on-field performance for the club. It was probably the fact that we played Paddy Ryder through the ruck as well, and we rested Rowe forward. And I guess he wasn't getting as much of the ball as he does now, being the number one guy. And he's essentially another midfielder. These two rucks, to me, are as close to 6'5" plus midfielders going around as any. Think Brodie Grundy. 2018 and 2017 in those years, and how good he was. Obviously, Max Gawn we talk about I don't even really need to mention Max Gawn when it comes to talking about gun ruck, because it's implied. He's an absolute freak of a player. But these two, I think, are the new sort of prototype guns of the comp. And I say new, but they're both obviously 26 years and above. But it's just kind of they're late bloomers, obviously. Rookie draft for Rowe, and they're just going at a very, very good rate. So that's that. It's actually got, you can't do per game, but we can go change career. We'll go to last year. So this is, Rowe and then All Australian on the right. So let's look at where they differ and if there's any clear differences. Because I think, I'm not saying that Rowe should have been the All Australian. I'm not doing a video complaining that he didn't make it. I'm just saying maybe 2024 could be different. Maybe he can make it this year. And, is there anything stopping him? I don't think so. So 5 clearances to 3.2 on average. If you go totals, though, it changes a bit. So the one big thing I want to point out for Rowe is obviously a lot more kicks. And then you look at the clearances, 121 clearances to 74. That's a massive differential. That's what, 47 difference between the two. More tackles, more disposals, 50-odd more disposals, less goals, but he didn't rest forward as much as we would have liked. And some people say that, he doesn't get a lot of hit-outs, Rowe, but he's not that far off. Like, he's 639 to 717. On average, that's, 4 to 5 more per game. I think the only clear thing that when I talk about Rowan Marshall, and there's little areas for improvement in terms of Rowe for me. I think he's an absolutely brilliant player. He's great on the ground ball. His disposal is phenomenal for his height. He's left foot, right foot. He's clever. He's creative. He's strong in the tackle. He can kick goals when we do rest him forward. He defends extremely well for his height as well. And obviously he wins a lot of the ball in the middle. The only thing that comes to mind when I think of Rowe and where he can really improve, and I think it's more of a midfield collective, but it's taps to advantage. Rowe wins a lot of taps. And maybe this is also an indictment on our midfield structure of the last year, but our mids don't win the clearances. We don't. We're very low on clearance count. That's a big thing that's going to be the focus this year for me and for the fans, is to see the midfield rotations and what we do in there to improve and to not get dominated by, teams that have strong midfields, because we win a lot of the hit-outs. It's just the ball doesn't go to our players. So it's either a miscommunication with Rowe and the mids and he's tapping it into the wrong spots, or the mids are too slow to react. They're on the defensive and the opposition attack Rowan's taps and they feast off that, and then they're basically roving both ruckman's taps, which is, you do the odds, you're going to win more clearances, right? So I think that's the only thing for me that when it comes to Rowe, I want to see this year is I want to see him really have a bit more of that Paddy Ryder-esque cleverness. And he did that a few times this year, but not consistently, where it's over their back, it's kind of, go there. It's even tap to himself, get it and clear it. He does that a few times, but I think he could do it more. I think he can throw in a bit. He's got a lot of swagger about him, and that's what I love about Rowe. But I think there's just that little bit of, added brilliance to his game, that finesse. I would say it's probably the word, finesse, that would take him from being an outstanding ruckman to really the elite ruckman. Although, to be fair, that word gets thrown around pretty comfortably, and I still think he's elite. I still think to me, he's top 3 ruckman in the competition, and I think it's a very fine line between the top 3 to 4. And so those little things, like just winning a few more tap outs to advantage or hit outs to advantage, I think would make a big difference for Rowan Marshall. But, when you compare him to a Tim English, who did get the All-Australian jacket, he's not far off. And he's going to be a big, big factor again this year as to, how close we go in, getting to finals and then hopefully winning a final. I'm just curious if we remove Tim English and we go maybe, let's go Darcy. How Rowe stacks up against some of these guys. Obviously, Darcy's outstanding as well. So this is totals this year. I think obviously Sean Darcy. How many games did he play? He missed a few games, didn't he? Maybe it's better to go averages. Yeah, so Rowe, look at that. Look at that for his year. Averages. Elite in almost everything that's important in a ruckman or just in a player in general. You'd be very happy to have that. Yeah, so he's missed a lot of games there, Sean Darcy. And then we'll go to the ultimate comparison, which is obviously not gonna, like, Gorney's just a brilliant player. Like, any club would love him. And at his age, to do what he's doing is amazing. So this is this season totals. Gorney did miss a few games as well. So we'll go averages. Yeah, so look at that. He's still doing so well. Like, but again, Max Gawn, Sean Darcy, these guys, I think they're just a little bit better when it comes to tap outs. I think that's kind of the main difference when I think about Rowe. But in terms of having like another midfielder, he's that. When the ball hits the ground, like there were some games where he had like 7 tackles in a game, right? And I'm like, he's a ruckman. He doesn't need to be doing that. Our mids should be doing that. Like he'll have 7 and then a midfielder's going to have 2 and you're like, wow. Our big man is really getting around the ground. He's really chasing hard and he's catching blokes. He's not that hard. You don't see players just whiz around him. He's very clever with his positioning, forward and back. And, we're very lucky to have him. So for me, I'm asking the question to you guys watching, is this the year that Rowan Marshall cracks into the All-Australian team? Can he make the squad? Can he get on the bench? I thought this year, at the very least, I thought he deserved to get a bench spot. He didn't, but I think that'll fuel him. We saw that, we've got a few All-Australians this year. I think Saints players are getting recognised a little bit more now. Obviously, we had a pretty decent year on the football field, made finals. So if we can do that again, and Rowe has a similar year to what he just had, which was a career best year, then there's every chance he could get that All-Australian jacket that I think he deserves. So I'll wrap it up there, Sainers. Let me know, is there anything else in Rowe's game that you think maybe is separating him from maybe a Max Gawn or a Tim English that got them that All-Australian spot and he didn't get it? Or is he doing everything he can and it's just a matter of time? Let me know in the comments. Thanks very much. Like the video. We're nearly on 10,000 subs. We're only 900 off. So if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, please do. More player-specific videos coming soon. Enjoy the rest of your week. And as always, go you mighty Sainers. See you guys.